We're here, man. Everybody, welcome
man.
to Beard of Darkness Book Reviews. We have Pete Kramer here. And let me just say real quick, this is the most patient man on the face of this earth because I've screwed up our schedule for talking for a long time now, but we're here tonight and I'm so excited, man, because the book we're going to talk about, my wife's not a fantasy reader. She read it and boom, she won't stop talking about it. So I'm excited to dive in, get her some answers, get me some answers. How are you tonight, Pete Kramer?
I am fantastic. It was perfect tonight because my kids and wife are out of town, so I have the whole house to myself.
Look at you. How many little ones do you have?
I have two. I have a son named Jack and a daughter named Jane.
I love
I
that.
had Jane first. Otherwise, I would have been Jack and Jill. But I had Jane first, and it didn't work. So
I love that. So you got one of each. Me and my wife, we had 3 boys first, and then we got our girl. She's 11 months. We have a 5, 3, and a 2-year-old, and the baby. So it's crazy, but man, it's kind of we've been convincing. Well, not convincing, but just
I'd say they were fun ages, but I don't want to lie to you.
Well, right. I think that I'll miss it, but it's very, very difficult. I saw a post. It was like I enjoy being a parent. I get up and I do things all day long, and then I go back to sleep, and then I get up and I do things all day long. And you can't prepare yourself for that, right?
Oh,
the parents try, the grandparents try, but
no one knows until they've done it.
You can't. You really just can't understand it until you've got the little ones. All right, Tim McKay, dude, what's up, man? Dropping the cover for the fall of Salvandria. I hope I'm saying that right today. Congrats, man. It's beautiful. E.L. Montague, my guy, what's going on, man? It's good to see you here. It's been a long day, a little bit of a rough day today, but I've been looking forward to talking to you all night. So what we're going to start with, if you don't mind, is tell us about this beautiful cover and written. It's beautifully written as well. Chesapeake Bay Monsters by you. Tell us kind of the genre, where it goes as far as genre, and a little bit of an overview, a little synopsis, if you would.
Well, it's one of those things that people ask me all the time, like, what is the genre? And because obviously I tried to pitch it as a traditionally published, and nobody wanted it. But I think a lot of that was me just trying to figure out the genre of it. And I didn't really know what to say. Is it a fantasy? I don't know. Is it a mystery?
I would say urban fantasy.
Know. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of it's Ghostbusters with mermaids. I mean, it's what it is.
Yes. By the way, guys, the occasional whimper may come from the baby, but hey, she's just saying hello. So yeah, I think I dig that explanation of it. The banter, though. Hold on 1 second. I'm so sorry. So the banter. All right. So the banter, man, there's not many authors and again, I've been reading for like 5 or 6 years. I'm not super experienced. I went from having 0 interest and never reading to reading all the time and loving it. So as far as my record goes, there's only a couple I can think of, and you're part of that couple. That the banter made me laugh. It was very relatable. Tell us a little bit about how you go about writing that banter.
Well, I just kind of do it in my head. Well, I play all the characters in my head. It's kind of like a one-man show when I'm walking around the office, and it's just like da, 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 da. And then you kind of do it, and then the next day you kind of go in and you cut out the parts that don't make any sense or that aren't relevant. But yeah, the dialogue's fun because dialogue's the part that nobody would ever skip. Like, you'll skip the long nonsense of like the characters and the descriptions and whatever, but everyone reads what everyone's saying.
Yes.
So I always just focus in on what they're saying, and a lot of times the context will be so good that you don't need I don't know if I'm explaining this well, but
no, it makes perfect sense. Instead of like filling it with complete chaos, you kind of focus in on the true gritty banter. You had my wife laughing, and that's hard. That's her, by the way. I felt like I was hanging out with buddies. Yeah, I felt the same. And that's what you're doing. You start this book, and it's, this isn't a spoiler, but there's buddies on a quest, and you get to ride along, and the banter along the way is excellent. What I was really happy to see, by the way, the other day was my buddy John Minton from Talking.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
I said, I know that book.
Honestly, I'm so grateful to everybody that takes the time, because there's this thing where you're trying to get it out there, and you just like send something to everyone that's on YouTube that has any kind of platform at all, like please,
yeah,
please look at this.
That's a marketing. You have to. I was talking to an author the other day, and a wonderful guy, and I cannot wait to read his book. And of course, I'm not going to name throw, but he was telling me how he doesn't market on any socials. And look, I get that's kind of like a monster nobody really wants to face, is the marketing on the social medias. But how I feel like it's the most key tool for an author to use. It's flooded. I get it. There's a lot of things going on, but I don't think there's a way to success without it.
I don't know how you would otherwise do it.
Yeah.
I mean, Fantasy for the Ages was a show that they have a YouTube channel, and I sent them the book, and they sent me a beautiful review, so I love those guys.
Fantasy of the Ages.
I thought I'd give them a shout out because they gave me such a great review.
Fantasy.
They actually did 2 videos for me.
I'm always trying to look for other channels that are fantasy based, or really any Booktube channels. I like to talk to them on my channel or vice versa. So thank you. Fantasy, what was it?
Fantasy for the Ages. His name is Jim, and he's awesome.
All right. Fantasy for the Ages.
And so, I sent my book all the way to England, and I had a guy do a Booktube video too.
That's incredible.
So no, and it's been pretty well reviewed. So I'm grateful to everybody that takes the time to look at it and do anything with it, really.
Absolutely. And it's kind of a cool, I don't know the word. I'm not very good with the dynamic of trying to explain this universe where the book world meets the author, and having that, I don't know, trying to spread the word-based marketing. It's a complex thing. It's not one answer. You look at successful authors, and they all do something different. So I think just kind of sticking to what your heart tells you to do, and following through on it, and getting people on board with your book, like what we're doing now, is very, very key.
Oh, so, for sure.
Are you planning a series with this, or is this just standalone?
That was it's a total standalone. I mean, if HarperCollins comes to me and says, "Hey, we want more," I'll come up with something. But
that was my wife's question. She's like, "It could be a series." So I want to know.
Could. I mean, we don't have Rock anymore, who is like really the heartbeat of that book. So I'd have to come up with a way to bring him back. Yeah. If I wanted to do that some more, but no, I'm actually finished a second novel that's completely different, off the rails, totally different type of thing, fantasy, but totally different kind of thing.
So I have a question towards the end where I want to dive into that just as much as you want to towards the end, because I love hearing the future of the authors I love to read. So not a series. I would say, just from my general sense of knowing the definition of some genres, is definitely definitely not epic fantasy, urban fantasy with a touch of just like a general fiction. I wouldn't say that it's like hardcore fantasy, but definitely an urban fantasy.
I've told people it's a horror novel, but it's not really scary.
No, I get why you would say that though.
Yeah, it's kind of Stephen King-ish, even though I'm not saying I'm Stephen King.
No,
I'm not
I get what
Stephen
you're saying.
King, but kind of his kind of zone.
Absolutely.
So,
going through what part of hold on, I'm trying to read my handwriting here. So when did literature become important to you in your life? So were you young? Was it writing or reading? What kind of blew it up for you?
No, I mean, yeah, I've read for a long time. I mean, I'm a big Star Trek fan. I know when, because I'm old. You know,
Right?
I just turned 40, so it's like
Oh, come
horrific
on.
for me. No, it's horrific. No, seriously, it's horrific.
I mean,
Um,
I'm almost right there with you, so you can't make me feel old now.
you're not there to you. But so my in probably the early 90s, my grandmother got me this Star Trek book that was like a big thick book, and in the early 90, probably like 1992, so I was probably in like second or third grade, so I was young. And it was a Star Trek book, and I was reading it, and I liked it, and I did come to really like it. But she got my brother this Goosebumps book, and he never became a reader, but I picked up that after I was like, oh, this is great. You know, so that was probably the thing that really got me into it, was the R.L. Stine Goosebump books, which I have all of those right now.
Oh
And they're all
man,
great. They're all great. I still
we
have them all.
me and my wife were just talking about wouldn't it be so cool to have every single of the Goosebumps, and have we seen a post with like this beautiful bookshelf that they had kind of themed to the Goosebump theme. It was beautiful, and I would love to have that hanging in my wall for my kids to just grab books off of.
I'm trying to get them to take them. I'm like, please read this. You'll like it. It's better than whatever you're doing. And they will not do it. It's hard to compete with that iPad, man. It's really
Ooh,
hard.
you're
It's
speaking to me now.
It's
It,
impossible.
I I think the one of the biggest challenges as a father so far is just that. It's like what is beneficial and what's the opposite, and how do I kind of manage their time with what they're doing on the internet, because it's inevitable. I'm on it. My wife's on it. We're all using it here, but making it safe, that's a hard thing, man. It's hard to know everything.
I'm reading books, and I've made a point to do more and just read, physical books. Because for a long time, I just read, with this, I'll just read on but it's like, to them, you're on your phone.
Right.
You know, it's not a book. You're on your phone.
I never thought of that.
Thing. You're on your thing.
Wow. Yes.
So
my wife, it's funny, before you brought up the Stephen King field, and it does. I'm 1000% on with you on that. She came to me right before we started talking, and she's like, it reminds me of Fairy Tale by Stephen King. I swear to God. So I think you're dead on with that kind of vibe. I really do. I just wanted to say that, man. That was truly an original moment, because she brought that right to me right before we came on.
You can't be in better company than with that guy.
Yeah, but, with books, he's quite loud about his politics, and I try to stay away from that.
He is. I still like him, though.
I do too. I can't not like him, but let's keep politics out of it, man.
No, for sure.
I will forever do that with my YouTube channel. Nobody will ever exactly know what I am, and that's not like, it's just a passion. I think that we should all love this if we all love it, and keep that other stuff out, man. But he is very like, hey, I'm this.
And honestly, if you followed me on Twitter, you'd know that I'm on the other side.
Brother, I get it.
But I still like him a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, and actually, since you're asking like what my my first books were or whatever, so I read Goosebumps, and then I read Star Trek and Star Wars books, and then I think in like 1996 or 1997, when I was in 6th or 7th grade, my mom, for Christmas, she was like, "You're reading too much baby stuff." And my mom did not read at all. My mom did not read. And I got this big, chunky Stephen King book, and it was desperation. And I think the first line is like, is swear words. And I remember opening up and I'm like, "Yeah, Mom, thanks. I'll read this. This is great."
Don't read the first line, because I'm out of here. I wish I like hearing those stories, man. Like, childhood stories of finding literature, because that was not my mom and dad are good or whatever. It was fine childhood, but they didn't push reading. They never said, hey, you should read more. And I wish they would have.
Right.
So to hear those stories, man, I truly enjoy it.
My parents didn't read either. They read now that they're retired, but they did not read in the 90s. They were just working all the time, you know.
I get it. Yes, absolutely. Because I grew up in the very similar time. What would you say was the biggest roadblock for you as a self-pub author? And it doesn't matter what part, like, from starting writing all the way to publishing the book. What was that hurdle you had to get over? Maybe you didn't see coming.
I mean, I've always tried to write stuff. I mean, I've been writing stuff since even before that Goosebumps stuff. I mean, I would see stuff on TV and try to duplicate it in writing. So I've always tried to write. So I mean, I'm sorry. What was your question again? I'm trying to answer.
Yeah. So, well,
I've just always tried to write.
Well, that's okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm asking. When did you? Honestly, I forget what the hell question I just asked you. I'm having an absolute brain fart, so I'm going to move on. I guess you've already answered this, but who are a couple authors that have their hand in the way that you write? Who would you say influenced you the most?
It's going to be weird because I think we're kind of on a fantasy. Like, I think a lot of people that probably watch this channel are probably like fantasy people, but Elmore Leonard is probably the guy that I duplicate the most, even though I don't think he has any. I really like reading him, and I like a lot of his books. Are you familiar with him?
No, I'm not. So what does he write?
Do you know Quentin Tarantino?
Absolutely.
Do you know Jackie Brown?
Yep.
That's Elmore Leonard.
So, I'm in. I have to pick that up now.
Yeah. I mean, and out of a lot of his books became movies. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of books that are like gonna change your life or anything, but they're never boring. So that was because I think that's the most important thing when you're writing anything is just you can write whatever you want as long as you're not boring. I mean, I'm reading Pillars of the Earth right now by Ken Follett.
Yes.
And it's about building a church. I mean, does anything sound more boring than that? No, it's amazing.
It's incredible.
It's amazing.
Like I haven't finished it, but the first 25% of the book, only a couple things happen, and there's some time jumping, and it's profound how I felt during that first 25% of how just that human, that human condition they all talk about.
It's great. But as far as Elmore Leonard goes, I mean, he is probably the style that I duplicate the most. I mean, he's got these 10 rules that I could probably recite from memory that I try to duplicate as much as I possibly can in all my writing. So
would you repeat that last part? Whose rules do you follow?
Elmore Leonard's.
Okay, the Elmore Leonard. Okay. I have to check them out, man, because I love that feel, kind of noir detective kind of.
But honestly, his advice, I mean, I think it's good for all genres, honestly.
I'd love to hear it.
He was a really good dialogue writer, which obviously that's kind of where I try to settle in and write a lot of good dialogue. So, thank you.
What are a couple of his rules?
Oh boy, you put me to the test.
I am.
This is good. I think the first rule is this is probably something that's pretty easy is don't open with the weather.
Hey, it's pretty good advice, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it all stems from that. It was a dark and stormy night. You don't want to do that. I mean,
wow.
You always want to open with a character and try to get into their head and their situation. You don't care. Like all the other stuff is just window dressing. You don't have to start with something like the weather. You can have it, but it's window dressing.
I have to say that I've reiterated this. I like to reiterate this because I know nothing, but I'd like to think that I'm going towards that ball of information, right? That I finally pick up and with everything that I've been given on this channel, start to write my own novel. Your information about starting with like a character, man. I started this today. By Philip Fracassi called Boys in the Valley. The best introduction I've ever read in my life. And it's 3 pages. It kicks you right in the nuts. So I highly recommend. But I bring it up because you talked about the character at the beginning. It's what he kind of did, and I'm hooked already.
There's three things. There's the characters, there's the setting, and there's the plot. And the character is the most important, and then you've got the plot, and then the setting's down here. I mean, you can get away with not having the most amazing setting if you've got these other. You want it all working, but if you've got these other parts working, it's all the better. So.
Tim McKay says, Warren thought it was Tom. Okay, maybe I didn't understand. Let's see here. I've been trying to get better at this, kind of go through the comments. Sometimes I do it absolutely horribly. Maybe I've done that, but hey, okay. The dialogue made this book so good. That's the other half. She agreed with first. She read it first. So I got to hear the pump and the hype about it before I got into it. So I was ready, and it did not disappoint. But this was the question that came to mind first when I was going to talk to you. There's more than just one huge theme in this book. Is that on purpose? Is that a message?
Oh, well, honestly, I mean, when I sit down to do it, I don't know what I'm doing, and I just
you touch on a big theme.
I just start writing, and then I kind of get to the end, and then I sort of get to the end, and it's like, what is this all about? And then I just try to come up with something that I think is going to be satisfying for people.
I love that, man. It's kind of it's hard to describe because it's your way. How did you find that though? Was it just trial and error?
No, I mean, the way I work is on these kinds of things is I'll write a scene and I'll try to make a good scene, and I'll write another scene that works with that scene, and I'll try to make a good scene, and I'll just try to get a bunch of good scenes, and I'll put a bunch of good scenes together, and then they graduate to the manuscript. But then what sort of happens is at the end, I kind of slow down a little bit when I'm like, okay, what's the big ta-da? And then I have to I have to sleep on it, think about it, and for this one, the original ending is completely different from the ending that ultimately became the ending. I mean, people die this is the thing that comes out is like the director's cut. The first thing, like people die in the new ending that don't die in the first. It's completely different.
So because I just
kind of figured it out as I go.
So by the end, it becomes a few different versions of what you initially put down.
I have no idea. I mean, if I don't know where it's going, the reader's not going to know where it's going. So that's how I do it.
Yeah, no, So when it comes to the publishing journey, kind of give me a window. I'm so sorry, guys, for the baby crying. She usually doesn't cry like this. When it comes to the publishing journey, yours in particular, how does that look? So what I mean by this is
it's killing my soul. No.
So I'm trying to maybe reword it. So your publishing journey, as far as when did you start writing Chesapeake Bay Monsters, and then when did it kind of come into fruition?
So it came out in October last year, and I pretty much decided I was going to self-publish it in probably like May of last year. But that was probably after me. It took a year to write. It took like 2 or 3 months for me to try to get, traditionally published, and then me giving
so
up
you queried.
Saying that, oh yeah, I'm querying right now my new novel, and it's like I just want to drill a hole in my head.
Man, I'm glad that you're talking about that, because that is such a real part of what so many writers are going through. Why is it such a
you just send this
time?
Thing into the void? You don't even,
I just saw a post from a guy that I talked to. He's an author. He got a rejection letter from a one of the big, 4 or 5 that he sent in like 3 years ago, and that's just bonkers to me. It just doesn't make sense. I don't think that's fair. I don't know much about their end of this, what they're dealing with on a day-to-day, how many
I'm sure it's awful. I'm sure they get 10,000 of these things, and they have to fit, and they have to make a split decision in about 5 seconds. I don't envy them.
No,
but it's definitely one of these frustrating things where you're just like, well, what am I supposed to do? So right now I am querying my second novel, but I anticipate that I'm probably gonna go the self-publishing route again. And what I did with this one was, once I knew that I was going to have to self-publish it, I knew that I had a developmental edit before I sent it out. But I knew I needed at least 2 other edits, and I knew I needed a book cover that was awesome, and I knew I needed a book design that was awesome. So I subcontracted out all that stuff.
Smart.
And I'm probably going to do that again. So
I honestly, after talking to a lot of self-pub authors, I like what Tim said. Tim's like, I don't blame them, but it strikes me as a broken system, self-pub all the way. I like that.
Yeah,
absolutely. I'm. It's incredible to me to think of the odds with the ocean of what is it? You send. It's emails now, right? You send a file. And they kind of go over it. What do you do? Send a summary in of, hey, this is my idea.
It varies. I mean, really what you got to do is you got to look at every agent and see what they want and how they want it and what they like.
That sounds exciting.
Oh my God. But I mean, what you do is you have kind of your letter where you're like, hey, this is kind of what I think, this is my book. This is my pitch. You got to keep it quick. You got to keep it short, and then they're going to tell you, hey, I want 1 chapter, I want 2 chapters, I want 3 chapters, I want a synopsis, and you just give them exactly what you want, what they want, and hope for the best.
Okay.
It hasn't worked out yet. But
it's all trust in one side. That's the thing. There's only one side that has the power.
And a lot of times it's like, well, what they want is not what I have. I mean, I have the thing that I wrote, and I'm looking for XYZ. It's like, well, I didn't write XYZ. I wrote this.
Which is probably based on the marketing trends at the time.
Yeah, I mean, it would help if I was gay. I mean, I think that would help. But
it's like I see a lot. I call them Walmart books, and I don't mean that in any other way than just to say the books that are doing phenomenally well that you hear all about, Fourth Wing, all those kind of books. Not that I'm against any of that, again, but it kind of puts the market in one corner. In my opinion, you've got so many talented writers that probably send in these letters to be queried, and how many of these amazing books that could be written or are written or just floating around, nobody's going to read them just because the market is where it is. I'm not the guy to fix this system, but I can certainly point out what I think is wrong with it. So I'm on that boat.
No, there's gatekeepers. You just have to try. I mean, and if they don't want it, they don't want it. And, you just have to respect that. And if they don't want it, then you just do it yourself. I mean, I don't write to make money. I mean, I write because I love to do it. That's it.
That's it. So. That speaks to me, man, way more than if you were to say, hey, I just got a deal for this and that. That speaks to me. I just want to.
I would do it no matter what. Honestly, I mean, the only reason I spend time and money in it is because I want people to see it, and I want it to look as good as it can look. You know what I mean?
By the way, guys, I haven't mentioned this yet. It's at the bottom, but I do have all of the links that I could gather up. I hope I got them all. If I didn't, there'll be more. After this, I'll check in and make sure they're all there. But the Amazon link to his book, and also the cover is quite vibrant. And I know that I got a green screen. It kind of sucked. There's some green where it's kind of filling in right here. That's why it's doing that. But it's just incredibly beautiful. And honestly, man, I think it's one of the better written books I've ever read. It's absolutely fun. The banter's amazing.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, I really do.
I'm always honest about that, of course.
And I wish I had more information about the guy that wrote the cover. I mean, I used because I was kind of thinking I wanted somebody to do the marketing of the book. So I used Books Fluent, which is like an online thing that will really just they'll give you the the published treatment. You know, they'll hey, we'll hire editors, we'll get you a illustrator, we'll do it all. Just give us a bunch of money.
I'm sorry, I just see below your name it says amazing writer. That may be
I did that
it's
for
true.
you.
Yeah. It's true, but I hadn't seen that yet. That's great. I love that.
But so I hired them. So the problem was when I did my developmental edit, I could find the editor that I liked, that I could work with, that would work well. And then I used these guys, and I didn't really get to pick my second and third editors, and I didn't really get to pick my illustrator. But man, they nailed the illustrator on that one.
I love
that was amazing.
Well, I wonder what kind of art. I would say abstract, but it's not abstract. It's kind of like in the vein of abstract, like big colors and
well,
dark places.
They asked me for some covers that I liked, and I sent them Kelly Link's short story collection, Get in Trouble.
Ooh,
and
I'll check it out.
Kind of has, and it has the same kind of look to it. And I was like, this is kind of the look I'm thinking. And if you see the cover for Get in Trouble, and then you see that, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, I can see where they were taking influences of. But they were really good.
That's awesome
for sure.
I like to hear, because I've heard many horror stories about those kinds of companies. So overall, are you happy with the service you got?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, they were professional people. They did a good job. They did exactly what I was expecting them to.
And what was their name again?
They were Books Fluent or Books Forward. I mean, they have two different companies, but they were very good. I mean, they did exactly what they're supposed to do. It was expensive, but they were good. The main thing that they taught me was, hey, this is exactly what you need to do the thing. So, I mean, for this next one, I'm probably not going to use them, but I know exactly what I need to do to get it to look the way I want it to look.
So I've gotten a lot of books from self-pub authors, and before I say this, like, hats off to any author. I absolutely love what you're doing. You're doing a wonderful thing, but I think there's a learning curve. You know, formatting, page color, formatting and page color are two big ones, and then cover artists, or
and I'm not going to pretend that I know anything about them. You know, like.
Well,
I don't.
No, but you hired a company that did, and I think that absolutely worked out in your favor. It's great. A lot of the time when you get a bad formatted book, it just looks jumbled and very tight. This is spaced out paragraphs. You have like page breaks if some time change, what have you, or point of view change, a different day. You're not going to be confused, and that's huge. It is. When you're reading a book, you have to have that.
Good.
So,
for sure.
As far as you finding your process, did you find that you're a pantser? Are you an outliner? Do you do a little bit of both?
No, I've never outlined anything. I'm
really?
Absolutely no.
Wow.
Absolutely, totally by the seat of my pants the whole time. I mean, they basically the first draft takes about a year to get done. I mean, that first book, Chesapeake Bay Monsters, took about a year. This book I've just finished was taken about a year to get that first draft and a half done. I mean, but it's a lot of just like me sleeping, trying to work out the problems I've worked myself into and trying to work my way out of them.
How do you keep the story cohesive from day to day?
Just
it's up there. Okay. I was hoping you said that, because I tried that, and I'm not a pantser, dude. Nope. I could not keep things. I couldn't remember what I wrote. I had to be reminded. And at 30,000 words, 50,000 words, you can't just go back and read that every single time you want to write. What kind of movies and music are you into?
You don't.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't hear you. Keep going. If you were talking about it.
I mean, if you're writing something you really enjoy, it really doesn't it's fine. I mean, you can go watch TV, or you can just go do this. And I'd rather just go do this.
I like that.
Even if I'm going into black holes, it's like I can, this doesn't work, and you come out.
Is that true? Control F is the pantser's best friend.
I don't know.
I think that's what you do to kind of search, as far as like, hey, I forget what I said here. It's like a search function.
I have to go up to the search bar and say, fine. I'm old. So
well, there you go. Now you know you can use that. Tim, let me know if I know if I'm right. There you go. Tim, did I get it right? Is that the search function? I haven't really asked this question a lot, but it hits home for me a lot. I never thought I was into fantasy when I first started reading. I'm like, why all of a sudden am I just in love with fantasy, sci-fi, what have you? It had been there all along. I just didn't recognize it. I had watched Star Wars. I'm not a huge Star Wars guy, or I'm not a Star Trek guy at all, but I am a guy that loves like Mummy, The Mummy Returns, that type of stuff. James and the Giant Peach, that was huge. Harry Potter was my generation in the most original way. I remember reading the first Harry Potter in third grade, Miss Cuvion's class. Of course, I didn't read it; she did, but it was a huge part of my life. So I always like to ask those type of movies or music that have a way of shaping who you are creatively.
Well, I always write to music. So I try to get like the last, and if you read my next book that's coming out, I mean, it's, that I say it's coming out, it is coming out, but, it's a lot of just John Williams, like on my headphones, and I just like Indiana Jones, like,
oh yeah,
that's what I'm listening to on track. And you're going to absolutely pick that up in my next book.
I can't wait. Of course I'm going to read it. I always tell the people, like, the authors I have on my channel, there are so many authors, and I love talking to the ones that I bring on the channel and building with that. So yes, 100%.
The music's just a way of shutting the door, and just like you're just in the zone, and honestly it just disappears after a while.
I started when I first knew I wanted to write, which was after I started this channel. I went and watched Brandon Sanderson's lectures, which had a lot of good information.
They're great.
I didn't feel at the moment, I was very new to everything, that I absorbed it because I was very lost. Now, if I go back, which I will, I think I'll have a much better grasp, having done these interviews and teaching myself through what I've been taught through these interviews. And I'll actually learn a lot more rather than kind of just hearing it.
I mean, honestly, as far as Brandon Sanderson goes, and I really like him, I actually think he might be better at explaining writing than he is at writing. He
does. He gets into a lot.
He knows what he's doing. I mean, definitely knows the science of what he's doing very, very clearly.
If you could pick one or two, if you can't choose one, books to reread for the very first time, what would they be?
Oh, they'd be those George R.R. Martin Game of Thrones books. Those
okay.
Song of Ice and Fire books. I mean, the first book was the best book I ever read until I read the second book. And then that was the best book I ever read. And then the third book, and then that was the best book I ever read. And then the fourth book kind of sucks. But those three are amazing.
Is Storm of Swords, is that number 4 or 3? I can't hear you.
That's the third book.
That's the third one?
Storm of Swords is the third book.
Okay. I can hear you a little bit now. I don't know what happened.
Can you hear me
something
now?
again. I can. Yes, I can still hear you. All right. So, okay. Let me see. I already asked that question. Man, I got to work on my handwriting. I can't even read my damn handwriting anymore. So here we go. What are you working on, and what's coming up for you, man? I'm excited.
So, okay. All right. Well, I'm working on a steampunk spy novel.
Yes.
And I don't read steampunk, so it's going to be interesting to see if this actually works. But I'm really super duper excited about it. I'm hoping it comes out in 2025. I hope so. So
I love that. First of all, anytime I see somebody in like a steampunk outfit, I'm just like, at the conventions or what, I haven't been to one, but I've seen pictures, and it is absolutely just the coolest aesthetic. So I don't think I've ever read a steampunk novel. I don't know that I could name one, to be honest.
I don't read them either. I read Thomas Pynchon's steampunk novel, which, I mean, I think I might just be too stupid for it. I think I might not be smart enough.
I've
to
felt
read
that way, man. I really have.
I'm like, I don't understand what's going on in this, because I was writing my steampunk novel. I was like, what's the best steampunk novel? Oh, this one. I'll just go read this. So I don't know what's going on in this book.
I get it. I've been there. There's been a few times actually. It's like I'm going to read a couple books and then I'll come back to this. Maybe it'll grow on me.
Like what?
Let's see, Gene Wolfe. I can't remember the name of the series. I have the cover. Anybody who knows about Gene Wolfe will know what I'm talking about. But you start it and it's just so abstract. It is all left up to the reader's imagination. I don't even understand how somebody could write this way. I think that in one way it's brilliant. I hope one day I can just. There's lots of huge Gene Wolfe fans. Yes, Josh Eats Books, my dude. Book of the New Sun.
Yeah, and if I need a thesaurus, I can't.
Yeah, he is just. He's one of those authors who've been praised, and I hear so much about. And I get the same answer every time I bring it up to somebody. They're like, "Take away from it what you took away from it," because I took away something different, and somebody else will also.
Right.
So that one, and then at first, the Prince of Nothing series, which it starts out with the darkness that comes before, by Scott R. Baker. Yeah, incredible book that I've reread it, but it started out one of those I had no idea what was going on.
Well, I don't, and for me, it's like, why would you do I don't, and I'm sure these guys are better than me. But I just think the most important person is the reader, don't bore them. Make sure they know what's going on. Like, I would never want to read something where I don't know what's going on. I
think a lot of writers too. I know Scott R. Baker is Baker. Yeah, I agree, Josh. And I agree with you as well, Pete. But it graduated out of that for me, that Baker did. But I really enjoyed the philosophy, and of course he majored in philosophy in college, and it's a very philosophical book. I don't really know how to explain it other than it's an intelligent read. It's not one you go through fast. You take your time with each chapter. There's characters who really take the representation of the worst parts of humanity and act it out in front of you. So I took a lot away from it finally.
Well, actually, I'm trying to read the Malazan books, and I haven't been able to get through the first one. I'm like,
Gardens of the Moon, yeah. Well, there's lots of people
going on in this, man. It's hard.
I think he has an epic scope, from what I understand. Because again, I have not started the series, but from what I understand, it's just the scope of he set out to write him and is it Esselman. His buddy.
I definitely think he knows what's going on.
Yeah, but the scope was just so huge that I think it takes time, and you have to trust that you're going to eventually get there, even if it's 2 books ahead, from what I understand.
No, and I think you're right. It's just, do I want to do that? Everyone's saying it's great. It's like, do I really want to do this?
I think there's a time and place, because I like the certain kind of philosophical book like Baker, but I also love what I just started. I had no idea about, and I loved the first one, The Terminal List by Jack Carr. It was just so good, and it's one of those action-packed kind of deep meaning. He's doing it for a good reason, but he's taking people out because they wronged him. And he's very successful. He's got 6 books out now in the series he's published. And it's just one of those palate cleansers, just to switch up the taste a little bit. I highly recommend it.
Good.
So I've gotten through a lot of what I wanted to talk to you about, man. And I'm thankful because, gosh, I really messed up our scheduling. So I'm just thankful that we're here and we got to talk, and I can't wait to do it again, man.
No, I'm happy. I'll let you know when my next one's out. Hopefully
please do. I can't wait for John also to give his thoughts on his channel. He will definitely do that. He's a good dude, man. Honestly, he's one of the best dudes I know on Booktube. So he'll do some justice.
super appreciate that he read it and shouted out.
Yeah, man. So Pete Kramer. I'm so sorry I called you Peter. Pete Kramer.
It's all right. My mom calls me that. It's okay.
Anybody that wants the links, I got you. They're below. I think I got them all. I'll ask after this. If I forgot one, I'll put that down as well. For everybody that was here live, thank you. And for you guys that will watch the replay, thank you too. Like, share, subscribe. That helps me, helps the author. And we'll see you next time. Oh, by the way, guys, this is my last live until I get back from Florida. So I'm going on vacation tomorrow. When I get back, I'll have a little bit of a suntan and maybe some, I don't know, some seafood to eat. Shit, I don't know. I love seafood. I'm going to bring some
Me
home.
too.
But all right, guys, thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Have fun. We'll talk soon.